Today, I want to spend a little bit of a time to tell you about some recession-proof jobs that you have to pay attention to as a student, and some of the things that you should spend money on during a recession, and some of the things that you should absolutely avoid spending money on during a recession as a student. By the way, if you have never watched any of our videos, my name is Behrouz Momeni. I'm the CEO and founder here at BMO. First, let me tell you about the top 5 recession-proof jobs. The first one is doctors with an average salary of $250,000 a year. Those are completely recession-proof. Everybody needs doctors at all times. Next one is dentist with an average salary of $150,000 a year. Again, very recession-proof. It's not something you can get away with. The next profession is it's lawyers. Again, they have an average salary of $150,000 a year. You always need lawyers, completely recession-proof. Next one I have is MBA graduates. That's $140,000 to $150,000 a year. Normally, they're hired as business consultants. There's always going to be businesses around, whether there's a recession or not. And business consultants are always something that are in high demand. And the last one, or the fifth one that I want to tell you, is the allied health professionals, such as pharmacists, physician assistants, nurses, average salary $120,000 to $150,000 a year. Again, high demand. Anything related to healthcare is always in high demand because whether there's recession or not, you got to take care of your health. Your health doesn't take a break during recession. So these are one of the common ones. Of course, one of the other one is being an entrepreneur and having a business that is itself immune to recessions is always good as well. Most of you that are watching this, you're probably doing one thing or another to get into one of these professional or graduate programs. That's probably why you're watching this. There's a few other things that you need to pay attention to. There are some things that you have to absolutely avoid spending your money on during a recession because they waste money and they don't add any value. And there are some things that you absolutely have to put a lot of money in and invest in during a recession, especially because they can keep giving back for life. So what are some of the things that you should stop wasting time, money, especially money, especially during a recession as a student? So here are the top 4 things that I think you should stop spending money during a recession if you're a student. 1, you should stop buying those dumb shoes, purses, jewelries, watches, clothes that you don't really need and you just want because it's a brand name, peer pressure, etc. If you don't need it, don't buy it. It's not the time to do that right now. Save your cash. Stop buying a new dumb iPhone, a dumb new laptop. Again, laptop, computers, phones, they should work at least 2, 3, 4 years. You shouldn't really buy a new one just because a new one comes up. You should buy a new one because your old one stopped working, broke, the battery doesn't charge, something like that. Don't waste money as a student on these things. The third one that you should stop spending money on, stop eating out or going to clubs and bars, etc. If you don't have excess money, don't spend money on these things. I'll tell you what you should spend it on. It's definitely not these things. The fourth one you should absolutely stop wasting money on. This is not a time for a major purchase. For example, don't buy a car, don't buy a condo, don't buy a house. Don't waste your money on these things. You don't need them. You don't need to go buy, I don't know, a aluminum carbon fiber bike right now. You don't need that. I can guarantee you don't need that. You already have a bike. Why do you need another bike, right? It's just dumb because the reason I'm telling you not to spend money on these things is because you're going to end up spending money on dumb thing that you want, which is going to force you in the future not be able to afford the thing you absolutely need and hold you back for life. So what are some of the things that you absolutely need that you must invest in your money on? So if you save money on these, other things I told you about, you're going to have money to be able to easily spend money on things that are going to pay back in the future for life. Here's the 4 things I would say you should absolutely invest in and spend your most amount of money as a student during a recession. First one, anything that will help increase your skill levels so you become highly sought after. This can be any books, it could be any sort of a coaching or that gives you any skills that allow you to get to the next level. So for example, so as number two, I would focus on transferable qualities. Example, any skills that are required to teach you how to make your application stand out, how to make your resume stand out, how to make your admissions interview or job interview skills stand out and become really good. Anything that teaches you negotiation skills, anything that teaches you fantastic communication skills, anything that allows you to sell and market yourself. Those are things that you will need for the rest of your life. This is the time to spend time and money and energy in those. The third one is any education you can get to become an entrepreneur, a doctor, a lawyer, an MBA, or allied health professional. Because as I told you, anything you do to get to that stage, those professions are recession proof, you're set. And the beauty is, whether there's a recession or not, if you get accepted to those programs, the banks always give loans for your education. So getting and the application process should not be like, oh, I don't have money, I don't want to spend money on that. That's just a dumb thing to do. You don't have money, go get a loan. You don't have money, use your credit card. It's allowed if it is used so that you could get to that next stage and become a lawyer, become a doctor, become an MBA, become an entrepreneur. Because once you are, first of all, you could easily get loans, very low interest, and they don't even ask you to pay it back until you're done your education, some of these loans. So there's really no downside. It's just an investment. It's not really, you have no other way to get to that stage, right? You have to spend the money now to get to that next stage. They always say, you got to spend money to make money. You know, it's really important for you to understand that. This is not some of those things that you should skimp on. The last skill is, you know, any sort of a skill that lasts forever. And the beauty is, when I tell you about these skills that are transferable, they accumulate over time, right? And they're compounding. For example, if you learn how to do really well with, you know, selling yourself in interviews or applications, you're going to use that later on. You're going to use that, for example, as a lawyer to get more clients. You're going to use that later on as a doctor to get promoted if you work at a hospital, or open a business, or have a private clinic, etc. You're going to keep using these things over and over, and you keep getting better. That's why it's important to start early. You know, the other day I was talking to a student who kept complaining about finances. Oh, I don't know what to do. This was a pre-med student. Oh, I don't have money for an MCAT course. I don't have money for this. I don't have. I'm like, well, why don't you do it yourself? I can't. I've tried before. I got rejected. I couldn't do it. And then, you know, while I was doing that, I noticed they got brand new Nike shoes on. I'm like, well, how did you afford those shoes then? It's like, oh, you know, it's just I had some money saved up. I'm like, hold on. So you wasted your money on a pair of shoes, which you didn't need, but you're not willing to spend money so that you, for example, are able to ace the MCAT? That makes no sense. That logic makes absolute no sense to me. So obviously, this was somebody I knew. I was able to explain the logic to them, and they realized, and hopefully they're not going to make the same mistake again. But if you're watching this, be careful. Again, to recap, one of the things you got to do is focus on the professions that are recession proof, so you don't have to worry about this ever again. 2, spend your money on everything that you can do to allow you to get accepted to those professions or become, you know, for example, an entrepreneur. Thirdly, avoid spending money on dumb stuff, so you have money for these other things, and you don't become to the kind of like this student that I told you had spent all their money on, you know, buying dumb shoes and clothes and stuff like that. This is how you become recession proof as an individual, and you're not going to be impacted by ups and downs of economy, which is always going to happen for the rest of your life. So that was it for me. I hope you found this useful. If you did, go ahead and share it with a friend who might be thinking of buying something dumb instead of something useful. If you enjoyed this, also go ahead and subscribe on whatever social media channel you're watching this, and I hope to talk to you next time. Bye-bye.